2 years ago, I graduated from film school, and since then, my camera has given me the opportunity to travel all over the country and film some really amazing things. Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Zachary Gutherman. I am a professional sports videographer, cinematographer, and video editor. And in this video, I want to talk about kind of the journey from going from graduating film school to where I am today. Last weekend, I got to go back to my college, visit, check out their film festival, hang out with some people, and that really just kind of brought back some memories of like, wow, look how far things have changed since then. And I just wanted to make this video to kind of give some advice to myself 2 years ago and just advice to anyone who may be in the shoes of graduating film school. So this video is just my advice coming from my own personal experiences, so take it however you want to, but hopefully someone who's in the shoes that I was in 2 years ago can get something out of it. So for most of us, film school is a really fun time, and you get a lot of highs in film school. You know, you get to play with cinema cameras, professional lighting, you know, you have all this equipment in your back pocket, and you get to make some really cool stuff. And then when you graduate, it kind of all just goes from 100 back down to reality. You know, you're back to your regular living scenario. You're no longer in the college dorms. You don't have all the access to the equipment, and the short films that you worked on all of a sudden really don't mean that much. So it's kind of difficult to go from those really highs back to reality, if you will, and try to figure out where to go from there, you know? And I mean, I can speak from personal experience. Film school is not the best place to learn how to get a job. You know, you're basically just told, oh yeah, you got to work your way up, but they don't really tell you how to work your way up and how to do any of that. So if you're anything like me, you know, you graduated and you're like, okay, well, now what? So the biggest piece of advice I would give is to not have an ego. You know, it's easy to think, oh, like, you know, I filmed all this cool stuff in film school, I must be the best in the world. Obviously, that's not the case. So how do you start from ground zero? So for me, when I graduated, I really had no, you know, set career path going. I knew that I didn't necessarily like making narrative films as much as I liked making documentary and filming like events and sports and stuff. So I knew that was kind of the niche I wanted to get into. And that would be my first tip, is kind of finding what your niche is. What do you actually like making, and what would you actually enjoy making for the rest of your life? You know, you're not going to be happy if you're going from being the camera guy to being a grip on some random project. You know, you want to do something that you niche in, something you enjoy. So for me, that was cinematography, that was editing, and that was more marketing, social media, sports content, as opposed to the narrative short film route. So first thing you want to do is niche down. But you know, even though you found your niche, how do you find a job in that niche? And that's really difficult, you know? I remember when I graduated, I didn't have any type of career path lined up. I just went right back to the job I had been doing the summer before. Gratefully, it was editing for a YouTuber, so you know, it was a pretty decent job. But had I not already had that connection, I probably would have gone to just a traditional, you know, post-grad job. So what can you do when you're in that scenario to put yourself in the right direction? So I would do 3 things every single day. I kind of set like a goal for myself that every single day post-grad, I'm going to do these 3 things until I get where I want to be. And those 3 things were, every day I would do one thing that helps my physical growth, one thing that helps my mental growth, and the third is one thing that helps my professional growth. So what does that look like? First, something that would help my physical growth. For me, that was going to the gym. I would do a lot of weightlifting and a lot of cardio. I was somebody who throughout college and even before college, you know, I always struggled with my weight. I struggled with the way I felt, the way I looked. And because I wasn't happy in my own skin and in my own body, I would not have a lot of confidence. And you're gonna learn quickly that a lot of the key to getting a good job, being in a good position in this industry, is having confidence. You know, you gotta believe in yourself. So for me, I took my physical health really seriously. I wanna lift weights, I wanna get stronger, I wanna lose some fat so I can have more physical confidence, feel better in my body, and also perform better at my job. And it doesn't have to be something to that extreme. Like, you don't have to be going to the gym every day to, you know, have that physical growth. It could be something as simple as going for a walk. You know, we're in a park right now. You could just spend 30 minutes a day going for a walk around the park. You could play basketball, you know, you could do sports, do yoga, just something active to keep your body physically fit. And that's going to make you feel 10 times better and help you so much throughout this journey. So for me, like I said, that was weightlifting, and I would also do cardio. I made myself do an hour of incline walking each day, which if you're someone who is in my shoes and wanting to lose fat, incline cardio is the best way to do it. 15 incline, 3.5 miles per hour speed, 1 hour, key to fat loss. If you just set the treadmill to the max incline and go anywhere between 2.5 and 3.5 miles per hour, you're gonna burn fat pretty quickly. It's actually a really great hack for fitness and doesn't tire you out nearly as much either. So that was the thing I would do for my physical growth. And mental growth actually tied right in with my cardio, which would be listening to podcasts. I would listen to so many podcasts, and I still every day listen to podcasts. You know, I still do my cardio every day. I still listen to podcasts every day. And what I would do is I would tell myself I'm only allowed to listen to my podcast when I'm on the treadmill doing my cardio. That way I would look forward to the treadmill because, oh, new episode just dropped, I have to go listen to it. And listening to podcasts is a really great way when you're, you know, someone young trying to get your foot in the door in this industry, because it's a great way to learn from the best of the best. You know, I would listen to podcasts that would help me grow, you know, things like the 505 podcast. That's a great podcast for entrepreneurs, filmmakers, videographers. That's a podcast I really recommend. For me, being into fitness as well, I would listen to Raw Talk by Bradley Martin. That was another really great podcast, a podcast that would help you with a lot of mental health stuff as well as physical health stuff. Other podcasts I like, since you got to get some religion in there, I listen to Penn Sunday School. Another podcast I would listen to is Mommy Daddy Talk, and just recently I've been getting into the podcast Modern Wisdom. And all these podcasts would help you grow mentally. You know, when you're listening to professionals, people who are in, you know, successful places, people who are places where you want to be, when you hear them talk and give their advice and give their story, that can be something that motivates you. And I've gotten so much motivation through podcasts, and truthfully, I don't think I'd be where I am today without all these podcasts. And then the last thing I would make sure I do every single day is something to help my professional growth. So professional growth could mean a variety of things. It could be watching a YouTube tutorial. You know, I would watch a ton of color grading tutorials, a ton of cinematography tutorials, just to really keep growing and learning more and more things, you know, because you can never learn enough. Another thing I would do for professional growth is I would, you know, update my website, update my cinematography reels, so that when I'm applying for these jobs, I'm getting the most out of them. You know, I'm giving my strongest foot forward. This could even be things like updating your LinkedIn, stuff like that, you know, so basically just anything that would help me grow professionally, and taking those little steps each day are what got me to, you know, eventually where I am. You know, it's something that you know, you write down all the things you have to do, and it's like, oh, this is really daunting, you know, how am I going to get here? But then by doing these little things each day, you know, making yourself physically better, making yourself mentally better, and making yourself professionally better, when you take all these little steps each day, it's going to eventually grow into something bigger. And then lastly, another thing that I think is super important that not enough people do is actually just keep shooting. You know, when we talk about professional growth, it doesn't have to just be like, oh, online presence stuff. It could just physically be picking up a camera and shooting things. I was fortunate that after college, I eventually did get a marketing job where, you know, I'd be shooting corporate videos. And even though I wasn't interested in the stuff I was filming, I was still getting to shoot, you know, getting to get my hands dirty with a camera, you know, in each video. I would just force myself to get a little bit better with each one. And then other things I would do, I would just make personal projects. You know, people talk all the time, oh, if you want to be making commercials, you should make a spec ad for this company. And that is 100% true, you know. For me, I made an ad for Theory 11 playing cards. I would also make Lego YouTube videos, you know, which is essentially like I'm shooting ads for Lego in a sense. And just the more reps you can get behind a camera, even if you're making stuff that nobody's going to see, even if you're making stuff that's never going to make you money, just the more reps behind a camera you can get, the better. So for me, I would each day do those 3 things and little by little grow better and better and better, both physically, mentally, and professionally. And those days become weeks, those weeks become months, and eventually you get to become, you know, a much better version of yourself. But there's still one more thing, and this is the biggest tip I have for anybody who's trying to really break into any kind of creative, videography, filmmaking, you know, photography, anyone who's trying to break into the creative industry. My biggest tip is you have to have a strong social media presence. So what do I mean by that? Basically what I mean is you have to share your work. Social media is basically your online portfolio, and it is the easiest way to have an online portfolio. And a really, really strong piece of advice I have comes from a magician, actually. His name is Daniel Madison, and he says that you are your brand. And that's something that stuck with me and something that really, really means a lot to me. You know, you are your brand. And your social media is essentially your brand. You know, you can't hide behind some made-up production company. You can't hide behind, oh yeah, I did all this cool stuff. You have to actually show your work and show that you're capable, because that's what's going to make other people see, oh, this person's actually really good. So I started posting my work. If I had a cool shot from any shoot I'd done, I would share it online. You know, I would share BTS pictures. Pictures of you holding a camera can do so much to prove, hey, look, this guy's actually shooting things. Sharing your work, sharing, you know, color grading before and afters, just sharing your work, posting your work is going to get you so far, because it's going to get not only more eyes on you, but it's also going to show, hey, this person is capable behind a camera. You could be the best in the world at videography, but if you don't share your work, nobody's going to know it. And then when you're applying for these jobs and someone Googles, oh, you know, this person's name, and they see, oh, I don't see any like proof of their work, you're just giving yourself a disadvantage. So share your work, post your work online. That is the easiest way to grow, not only by, you know, getting followers and getting, you know, fans or whatever, but it's just a great way to show the world that, hey, look, I'm doing stuff and I'm doing good, high quality work. So that is like my biggest piece of advice, is find your personal brand. And you know, it took me forever to find my personal brand. Even like now, I'm still experimenting. What is my brand? How do I share my work, you know? And you know, as I'm getting deeper into it, you know, I'm learning more. Oh, okay, this is how I show my work. This is how I best show off my best shots, my BTS, things like that. But just the fact of showing something is better than showing nothing, because I have no way to know that you behind the camera right now is the best videographer in the world if you don't share your work. And this is not like an ego thing, you know, it's very easy. I said in the beginning, you gotta drop your ego. I'm not saying this as an ego. It's not like, oh yeah, look how great this shot is. It's just showing, hey, look, I filmed this video for this thing. These are my shots, you know, and people will watch it. And if they like it, you're gonna open some doors and get more opportunities from that, you know? So I think that's a really strong thing. But on the topic of social media, you don't wanna just share your work. Use social media to connect with other people. You know, I'm really big into sports videography, so I follow a lot of sports videographers online on my social media and connect with them. You know, if someone posts a sick shot, I'll comment, hey, this is awesome. And by doing that, you're just building up your network. And you know, it's not like a follow for follow type of deal, but it's like, hey, I'm putting myself out there, I'm following people who inspire me, and through that, I'm gonna open some doors, you know? Even like just all the cool jobs I've ever had have come from social media. You know, when I first started working with Zack Hample, it's because he tweeted out, hey, I'm doing an editing contest. I want someone to edit this video for me. And so I entered the contest, I ended up winning, we got connected, and then I became his editor for a few years. And you know, that's really fucking cool. But that's something that I would have never gotten if I didn't just follow him on social media. You know, follow people you like. You know, not just, you know, the creatives, follow the brands, the organizations. Savannah Bananas. I got the Savannah Bananas opportunity all because of an Instagram story. They posted an Instagram story saying, hey, applications close on Friday. It was like Monday, and I was like, oh shit, it'd be cool to work for them. And that's what, you know, pushed me to apply, and eventually, you know, here I am, and now I travel the world as one of their videographers. So I think that's something really important. Like, social media is something that's so slept on, and something that, you know, really, if you can use it to its max, it's going to get you so far. So yeah, those are my tips for someone graduating from film school. I know it's like April right now, which is already crazy. So I know there's going to be a lot of people in the shoes I was in. You know, it's easy to get discouraged. Your life goes from, you know, this really fun place that you really love, which is college, and then you get kind of thrown into the real world. And I know it can be hard, and I know it can be especially hard because not everybody gets it. You know, it's not like the creative space is not like your traditional job where, oh, I just, you know, hand in my resume and then boom, you get applied, you get the job, you get sit in your office, go to work 9 to 5. You know, the creative space isn't like that. And if you're watching this video, I know you're not like that. You don't want to just settle for something like that. And it's hard because not everybody gets it. And there's going to be people who put you down. There's going to be people who judge you, like, oh, you're making spec ads for Theory 11 playing cards. What's that going to get you? Like, why aren't you applying for jobs instead? You know, and, you know, even like posting on social media, you know, oh, why are you posting all your work on social media? Like, that's not going to get you anywhere. People don't get it, but the key is that you just keep doing it. Stay true to yourself. You know, that's the biggest thing I can tell anybody. Stay true to yourself, you know, and things are going to fall in the right place if you put in the work. You know, it's like building a Lego set. You have to put piece on top of piece on top of piece on top of piece. Just like that with what I was saying with doing each little thing today. You know, my little bit of professional growth each day is going to lead to a lot of professional growth. Same with physical growth, same with mental growth. So those are my tips, those are my advice. But if I could leave you guys with any other one piece of advice, you know, like I said, have a strong social media following, and please do stay true to yourself. You know, you have your dreams. You're the only person who knows what your dreams and what your ambitions are. And if you're not in the place where you are achieving those dreams and ambitions, just keep working harder. You know, you got this. Keep your head up. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it, because you can do it. And yeah, it's all going to work out. If you have any other questions or concerns or whatever, let me know in the comments. I would love to make this a community of helpful advice, you know, and just kind of, hopefully this video talked to somebody. As long as one person got something out of this video, then I feel this is a success. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this one though. I just wanted to share some quick tips, quick advice, you know, because I know graduation season's coming up and I know it can be stressful, and I remember very distinctly being in those shoes and thinking, oh my God, how's it all gonna work out? But I'm telling you, if you just keep working at it, it will all work out. That's gonna be it for this one though. I appreciate you guys all watching the video, and I'll talk to you all again in the next video.